The call dropped. Vanessa stood frozen in the middle of the wide living room, her phone still pressed to her ear. The smile that had been dancing on her face seconds ago vanished. Her fingers shook as the screen went dark. "What did you just say?" she whispered to no one. Across the room, the huge television kept playing softly, unaware that something had just gone terribly wrong. The glass doors leading to the balcony showed a calm Lagos evening, golden and quiet. But inside Vanessa's chest, her heart was racing. The contract was gone. The same deal she had laughed about in a cafe barely an hour earlier. The same deal she had used to shame someone who never fought back. Vanessa sank into the leather sofa, her knees weak. And far across the city, in a smaller flat with plain curtains and simple furniture, Lydia sat at her dining table, eyes steady, lips calm, staring at her phone. The plan had begun. It had not always been like this. Months earlier, Vanessa Cole was known among her friends as Madam Success. She lived in Ikoyi, in a tall building that smelled of polished floors and fresh flowers. Her husband, Richard Cole, was a billionaire businessman. People spoke his name with respect, some with envy. Vanessa loved that respect even more than Richard did. She was not cruel by shouting or insulting people openly. She smiled too much for that. Her cruelty lived in soft laughter, gentle words, and proud stories that always placed her above others. And Lydia Harper was always sitting across from her when those stories were told. Lydia lived in Yaba. Her home was neat but small. Her husband, Martin, worked hard but his business never seemed to grow fast. Money came in slowly and left quickly. Lydia never complained. She dressed simply. She listened more than she spoke. Vanessa took that silence as weakness. They met often at cafes in Victoria Island. Vanessa always chose the place. Always the expensive ones. She liked how Lydia would look around quietly before sitting down. On one such afternoon, Vanessa leaned back in her chair, waving the waiter away. "Honestly, Lydia," she said, smiling, "sometimes I wonder how you cope." Lydia looked up. "Cope with what?" Vanessa laughed lightly. "With managing everything. You know, a husband that is still trying to find his feet." Lydia nodded once. "We manage." Vanessa tilted her head. "That's good. Because life is really about choosing right. I always say it. The family you marry into can change everything." She lifted her phone and showed Lydia a picture of a large house. "This is our new property in Banana Island," she said proudly. "Richard just closed another deal." Lydia looked at the phone. "It's big." Vanessa smiled wider. "Big things happen when you plan well." Lydia stirred her drink slowly. "I'm happy for you." Vanessa watched her closely, waiting for jealousy, anger, or sadness. But Lydia only smiled. That smile bothered Vanessa more than any angry reply would have. The real moment came the day Richard walked into their bedroom, his face glowing. "Vanessa," he said, loosening his tie, "we got it." She sat up at once. "Got what?" "The government contract. The biggest one this year. Infrastructure. Lagos-wide." Vanessa jumped from the bed. "Richard. That's massive." He nodded. "Very massive. This deal alone will change our position completely." Vanessa hugged him tightly. She did not ask questions. She did not care about details. All she saw was a new story to tell. That evening, she called Lydia. "Let's meet," Vanessa said quickly. "I have good news." They met at the same cafe. The same table. The same quiet music in the background. Vanessa did not waste time. "My husband just secured a contract," she said, almost whispering with pride. "The biggest one in Lagos this year." Lydia blinked. "That's good." Vanessa laughed. "Good? Lydia, this is beyond good. This is generational. You see why I always say some choices change your whole life." She leaned forward. "Some people struggle because they picked wrongly." Lydia looked at her calmly. "Everyone has their journey." Vanessa shook her head. "No. Everyone has their choices." She laughed again, louder this time. A sharp, sarcastic laugh that cut the air. Lydia did not laugh back. She picked up her bag slowly. I should go home. Vanessa waved her off. Of course. Say hi to Martin for me. Lydia paused. I will. She left the cafe without another word. Vanessa felt satisfied. Victorious. She did not notice the way Lydia's fingers tightened around her bag strap as she walked away. That night, Lydia sat across from Martin at their small dining table. How was your day? Martin asked. Fine, Lydia replied. He smiled tiredly. Vanessa again? Lydia nodded. She talked. Martin asked carefully. Yes. She laughed. Yes. Martin sighed. I'm sorry. Lydia reached for his hand. Don't be. She looked at his face. The honest lines. The quiet strength. The effort he put in every day. She thinks success gives her the right to look down on people, Lydia said softly. Martin frowned. Let it go. I have, Lydia replied. For a long time. She stood up and walked to the window. Lagos lights glowed in the distance. Busy. Alive. But sometimes, she continued, people need to learn that pride can be very expensive. Martin looked at her. What do you mean? Lydia turned back slowly. Her face was calm. Too calm. Nothing, she said. Just thinking. That night, when Martin slept, Lydia sat alone with her phone. She scrolled quietly. Names. Contacts. Old messages. Old connections she had never used. She stopped at one number. Her thumb hovered. Then she smiled. The next morning, Vanessa woke up feeling light and happy. She stood in front of her mirror, admiring her reflection. My life is good, she said out loud. Her phone rang. She answered without looking. Madam Cole, a voice said urgently, there's an issue with the contract. Vanessa laughed. What issue? The voice hesitated. There are questions. Serious ones. Vanessa's smile froze. What kind of questions? She asked. The line went quiet. Vanessa held the phone tighter. Questions? She repeated. What kind of questions? The voice on the other end cleared his throat. Madam, the ministry has paused the contract review. They said some new information has come in. Vanessa's heart skipped. From where? I don't have full details yet, the man replied. But your husband has been called in. The call ended. Vanessa stood still for a long moment. Then she laughed nervously. This is normal, she said to herself. Big deals always have small delays. She dressed quickly and walked out to the living room. Richard was already there, reading messages on his tablet. You got the call? Vanessa asked. Yes, Richard said. I'm heading out. She walked closer. Is it serious? He paused. I don't think so. But someone is asking questions. Who? She asked. Richard shook his head. I'll know soon. When he left, Vanessa sat down heavily. Her mind moved fast. She thought of the cafe, of Lydia's calm eyes, of that strange smile. She pushed the thought away. No, she whispered. She's nothing. Across town, Lydia moved through her day like nothing had changed. She cooked. She cleaned. She answered messages from friends. She smiled at Martin when he called to check in. How are you? He asked. I'm fine, she replied. You sound calm, he said. I am, Lydia answered. When the call ended, she opened her laptop. The screen showed documents neatly arranged. Names, dates, emails. Lydia was not careless. She had waited for the right moment. She had watched Vanessa talk freely for months, bragging, sharing details, saying things she should never say. Pride had made Vanessa careless, and Lydia had listened. She closed the laptop and leaned back. Her face showed no joy, no anger, just focus. That evening, Vanessa could not sit still. She called Lydia. Lydia answered after a few rings. Hello. Lydia, Vanessa said, forcing a laugh. What are you doing? At home, Lydia replied. Why? Nothing, Vanessa said quickly. Just checking in. There was silence. Then Lydia asked, Is everything okay? Vanessa hesitated. Yes. Why wouldn't it be? Your voice sounds different, Lydia said softly. Vanessa laughed louder than necessary. You worry too much. If you say so, Lydia replied. Vanessa ended the call feeling uneasy. 2 days passed. News moved quietly in Lego circles. Nothing on television. Nothing online. But inside offices and meeting rooms, whispers grew. Richard came home late that night. Vanessa met him at the door. What's happening? Richard loosened his tie slowly. Someone submitted a report. A report about what? Conflict of interest, Richard said. Data misuse. Insider details. Vanessa felt cold. That's not true. I know, Richard replied. But the timing is bad. Who would do this? She asked. Richard looked at her carefully. Did you tell anyone about the contract? Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. I mentioned it, she said. Just casually. To who? He asked. She swallowed. A friend. Richard's face hardened. Vanessa, deals like this are not stories to share. I didn't give details, she said quickly. Sometimes, Richard replied, details are not needed. He walked past her into the bedroom. Vanessa sat down slowly. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lydia. Hope you're well. Vanessa stared at the screen. The next morning, Lydia received a call from an unknown number. Yes, she answered. You did your part, the voice said. Good, Lydia replied. The rest will follow. She ended the call and stood quietly by the window. Lagos moved as always. Busy roads. People rushing. Life going on. She whispered to herself, pride always talks too much. Later that day, Vanessa arrived at the ministry building uninvited. She waited in the lobby while Richard was inside. Her hands trembled. Finally, Richard came out. His face was tight. They have frozen the deal, he said. Frozen. Pending investigation, he continued. They believe someone close leaked information. Vanessa felt dizzy. But that's not true. Richard looked at her. They have records. Messages. Timelines. Her legs gave way and she sat down. Vanessa, Richard said quietly, who exactly is this friend you talk to? She could not answer. Her phone rang again. This time, it was Lydia calling. Vanessa stared at the screen, fear rising in her chest. She answered slowly. Hello. Vanessa whispered. Lydia's voice was calm, almost gentle. Sometimes, Lydia said, less talking saves more than money. Vanessa's breath stopped, and the line went dead. Vanessa lowered the phone slowly. Her hands were cold. Richard was already walking toward the exit of the ministry building. He did not look back. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt small standing beside him. In the car, the silence was heavy. Say something, Vanessa whispered. Richard kept his eyes on the road. I'm thinking. Thinking about what? She asked. About trust, he replied. And about how carelessness can ruin years of work. Vanessa swallowed. Richard, I swear I didn't mean any harm. I believe you didn't mean it, he said. But meaning well does not stop damage. She leaned back, closing her eyes. Lydia's voice echoed in her head. Less talking saves more than money. At home, Vanessa could not rest. She walked from room to room. The house felt different. Too quiet. Too large. She replayed every conversation she had ever had with Lydia. Every smile. Every laugh. Every proud word she had spoken. How did I not see this? She whispered. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Lydia. We should talk. Vanessa stared at it for a long time. She typed, then deleted. Typed again, then deleted. Finally, she replied. Where? The response came almost immediately. Your place. Vanessa's chest tightened. Lydia arrived that evening. She wore a simple dress. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked the same as always. Vanessa opened the door slowly. Come in, she said. They sat opposite each other in the living room. The same room where Vanessa had once said proudly, "My life is good." Now, her voice shook. Why? Vanessa asked suddenly. Lydia tilted her head. Why what? Why did you do this? Vanessa said. You knew what that deal meant. Lydia looked around the room calmly. You always liked asking questions after damage was done. Vanessa stood up. I was only talking. You took it too far. Lydia's eyes hardened slightly. You were not just talking. You were teaching. Teaching. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Teaching what? That I chose wrongly, Lydia replied. That my life was small. That my husband was not enough. Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. You laughed, Lydia continued. Not once. Not twice. Every time you spoke about your success. I never planned to hurt you, Vanessa whispered. But you enjoyed it, Lydia said softly. Silence filled the room. Then Lydia stood up. I did not lie, she said. I did not steal. I only passed on information you gave freely. Vanessa's voice broke. You ruined us. Lydia looked at her. No. I reminded you that words have weight. She turned toward the door. Wait, Vanessa said quickly. Please. Lydia paused. You think this ends here? Vanessa asked. Lydia glanced back. This is only the beginning. She left. That night, Richard did not come home. Vanessa sat alone on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed with messages she could not answer. Finally, a call came in. It was Richard. They've moved from freezing the deal, he said quietly. Vanessa's heart dropped. To what? To a full investigation, he replied. And they want names. Vanessa felt tears spill over. Vanessa, Richard said, his voice low and firm. Did you give anyone access to my messages or documents? She froze. Her mind raced back to the times Lydia had sat beside her, smiling, while she scrolled through her phone. I don't know, Vanessa whispered. There was a long pause. Think carefully, Richard said. Because if this goes further, it won't just be money we lose. The call ended. Vanessa's body shook. Across the city, Lydia stood by her window, phone in hand. A new message arrived. They're asking deeper questions. Lydia typed back calmly. Let them. She placed the phone down and whispered to herself, pride always opens the door. And somewhere in Ikoyi, Vanessa finally understood that her lesson had only just begun. Vanessa did not sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the bed until morning, her back straight, her eyes burning. The house that once felt like a reward now felt like a trap. At dawn, Richard returned. He did not look angry. That was worse. He dropped his briefcase and sat across from her. We need to talk, he said. Vanessa nodded quickly. I know. I'm ready to explain everything. Richard raised his hand. Not yet. First, listen. She went quiet. They have traced the leak, he continued. Not directly, but close enough. Vanessa's heart thumped. To who? To someone you talk to often, Richard said. Someone outside our business circle. Her mouth went dry. Lydia. Richard watched her closely. So you know the name. Vanessa burst into tears. I didn't think she would do this. I never imagined. Richard stood up. You imagined laughing at her pain. You imagined comparing lives. You imagined being better. She tried to speak, but no words came. I trusted you, Richard said calmly. Not with money. With sense. He walked toward the bedroom. I'm staying elsewhere for now, he added. I need space. The door closed softly behind him. That sound felt louder than any shout. Vanessa moved like a shadow for days. She avoided friends. She avoided calls. She avoided mirrors. But Lagos did not stop. Whispers moved faster than cars. People smiled differently. Some stopped calling her Madam Cole. One afternoon, Vanessa forced herself out. She drove to Yaba. She did not call ahead. When Lydia opened the door and saw her, she did not look surprised. "You came," Lydia said. Vanessa walked in slowly. The flat was simple. Clean. Quiet. "How did you plan this?" Vanessa asked immediately. "When did you decide to ruin me?" Lydia closed the door gently. "I did not plan to ruin you. I planned to stop you." "By destroying my family?" Vanessa shouted. Lydia looked at her calmly. "Your pride was already destroying it." Vanessa's voice shook. "You could have warned me." "I did," Lydia replied. "With silence. With patience. With calm." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "So this is revenge?" "No," Lydia said. "This is balance." She walked to the table and picked up a folder. "I only gave them what they asked for," Lydia continued. "Dates. Messages. Things you spoke about freely." Vanessa stared at the folder. "You enjoyed this?" Lydia shook her head. "I was tired." "Tired of what?" Vanessa asked. "Tired of being made to feel small," Lydia replied. "Tired of being spoken to like I chose wrongly." Vanessa fell into a chair. "My life is falling apart," she whispered. Lydia looked at her for a long moment. "Then now you understand." That evening, Vanessa returned home to an empty house. She checked her phone. No messages from Richard. But one new email caught her eye. Subject: formal request for statement. Her hands trembled as she opened it. They wanted her side. Her version. She sat down slowly. At the same time, Lydia received a call. "This is moving faster," the voice said. "They want her statement." Lydia looked ahead calmly. "Good. Are you sure you want to continue?" The voice asked. "This could go very far." Lydia paused. "Yes," she said. "She needs to face what she built." She ended the call. That night, Vanessa stood in front of her mirror again. She looked older. She opened her mouth to practice what she would say. But before she could speak, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Mrs. Cole," a firm voice said, "we need you to come in tomorrow morning. There are new findings." Vanessa's knees weakened. "What kind of findings?" she asked. The voice paused. "Your name appears more than once." The call ended. Vanessa dropped the phone. And far away, Lydia sat quietly, knowing the next truth would hit harder than the first. Vanessa arrived at the office early. Too early. The building looked taller than she remembered. The walls felt cold. Every step echoed as if it was announcing her mistakes. She sat in the waiting room, hands locked together, breathing slowly. When her name was called, she stood up, forcing her legs to move. Inside the room were 3 people. Files on the table. Screens on the wall. "Mrs. Cole," one of them said calmly, "thank you for coming." Vanessa nodded. "I want to cooperate." "That is good," the man replied. "Because what we found raises serious concerns." He slid a file across the table. Vanessa opened it. Printed messages. Dates. Times. Notes from conversations. Her stomach dropped. "These," the woman beside him said, "came from your phone activity." Vanessa shook her head slowly. "I didn't send anything official." "You did not need to," the woman replied. "Your words were enough." Vanessa closed her eyes. She remembered laughing, bragging, talking too much. "We are not accusing you of stealing," the man said. "But your actions helped expose sensitive information." Vanessa whispered, "I never thought." "That," he interrupted gently, "is the problem." Outside, Lagos moved on. Inside another part of the city, Lydia sat with Martin. He watched her carefully. "Something is happening," Martin said. "I can feel it." Lydia nodded. "Yes." Is it over? He asked. Almost, she replied. Martin hesitated. Do you feel good about this? Lydia looked down at her hands. No, she said honestly. But I feel clear. Back at home, Vanessa faced Richard again. He stood by the window when she entered. They called you, he said without turning. Yes, Vanessa replied. They know. Richard nodded slowly. I guessed. She stepped closer. Richard, I am sorry. I let pride speak for me. He finally turned around. I worked for years to build trust, he said. And you broke it with laughter. Tears rolled down Vanessa's face. I didn't know silence could be louder than words. Richard sighed. Now you do. He picked up his bag. What happens to us? Vanessa asked quietly. Richard paused at the door. That depends on what you learn, he said. And he walked out. Later that day, Vanessa called Lydia. Lydia answered. I know why you're calling, Lydia said calmly. Vanessa's voice was small. You won. Lydia shook her head. This was never a game. You could have stopped, Vanessa said. You could have pulled back. So could you, Lydia replied. Vanessa swallowed. Why didn't you ever tell me how it made you feel? Lydia was silent for a moment. Because people who enjoy standing tall rarely listen to those they stand on, she said. Vanessa closed her eyes. I am ashamed, she whispered. Good, Lydia replied softly. Shame is where change begins. The line went quiet. Weeks later, the news became official. The contract was gone. Not because of lies, but because of loose words. Vanessa no longer visited cafes. She no longer bragged. She stayed quiet. She listened. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of silence. And Lydia? She returned to her simple life. Not richer. Not louder. Just steadier. Because the lesson was never about money. It was about pride. And pride, once exposed, always collects its debt. Thank you for listening. What is your view about this story? Let us know in the comment section. Kindly like, comment and subscribe to our channel.